Hey, Las Vegas, thanks for joining us here on Vegas Realty Check, your local Las Vegas real estate news show. I'm your host, Trish Williams, and
I'm your co-host, Tiana Carroll. Welcome.
Yes.
Today we are going to have an exciting show. We are going to be doing our crystal ball predictions for 2023 housing market here in the Valley, which I think is going to be a little bit different than everything I'm reading nationally. So I can't wait to kind of get into that and see what's going on.
I want to hear your school of thought on this too, because again, this is everybody's predicting. People are making like these predictions, and no one knows. No one knows the truth, you know, of what's really going to happen. We can't see into the future, but it's. I've heard some, and we'll get more into this. I've heard some pretty bold predictions, and I'm like, I don't think it's going to go down that way.
Well, it's. Okay, so before we get into it, we should talk about the numbers, right? Because we've seen a little bit change in the numbers, because last week our Thanksgiving? Yeah, so we haven't done numbers for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So there was the little bit of a dip when those numbers came out.
Yes, so you sent me these numbers this morning, and I took a look at them, and I was like, huh. And so I had to get some more information too after that, because it was such a substantial change.
Well, because I feel like we did take the week off, and we had that pre-recorded show last week, and so now we came back and we're like, oh, what happened while I was on vacation?
I know, right? So the numbers changed substantially. Because our single family inventory that was on the market over, well, let's say even just 2 weeks ago, we were around 8,000,
right? Well,
79,
just under,
78.
Yeah, 76, 78, right in there.
Okay. So over the last 2 weeks, that has dropped down to 6783. So I'd say it's dropped by about 1,000, close to 2,000 units, somewhere in between there.
Right. So it has done a dip, and then when I was looking at the numbers, it kind of like threw me for a loop. I'm like, wait, I haven't even had coffee yet. What is happening? And so I looked through them, and then I was hoping they were all like sold. Right? Well, houses are moving. This is what it is.
That's exactly what I looked at after that. I was like, okay, wow, this inventory is dropping. We must have had like this boost in activity, because what I can tell you is I did feel after the elections, like once the elections were out of the way, because people, you know, they brace themselves like, what's going to happen next? And
well, people are cautious.
Yeah, whatever. So after that, before that, there was almost nothing happened, like nothing, not even a showing.
No pending sales, no showings. It was kind of like we were frozen in time for about 2.5 weeks, it felt like.
Absolutely. And then right after that, I mean, I think, I don't know, I stopped following it because it's just frustrating, but I think...
Perfect. We're like, we're going to do real estate news, but we're not going to pay attention to what's happening.
Whatever else is out there, I'm done. I don't even want to look at it.
That's so funny.
But I think we still don't have results. I don't know, like, you know, whatever, certain things. But it just seems like after that day, like people loosened up and they're like, okay, like this is what may be happening or something. Like we at least know something. So then we started seeing a little bit of showings. And by a little bit, still we're averaging 1, 2, 3 showings a week on listings on average. And this is across the board right now. But still, that's better than 0.
Yeah, no, houses are easier to sell with showings. I will definitely concur that.
Yeah, and that is only if prices are right. So there's that. And when we get into this whole discussion, we can talk a little bit about that too, because that's certainly a struggle.
But that drop in numbers, those weren't closed sales.
No.
Those were not closed sales.
They were not. They were withdrawals and expireds.
They were withdrawals and expireds. People have been sitting out the duration of their contract and came to an end, and they're like, we're done. We're not going back on the market. They weren't relisting, or they've just been frustrated with the constant hammering from their agents, lower your price, lower your price, lower your price, that they backed out of the market.
Yeah.
And they're just done with it.
Yeah. And a couple of days ago, I sent you a text at like late at night of my frustration. Did you get this?
I got your frustration text, and then I read A, the article, and then B, I read that your response to the article, and I don't think they were as far off as you thought. I think you were a little fiery there.
I was a little fiery. Okay, so just a summary. I had a national news reporter that was reporting on real estate news do an article where I was mentioned with what
I he did an interview with you. He wanted to take on our market because he interviewed from a bunch of different
markets.
And you were the one he picked from this market.
Right, and it was an hour-long interview, and then like just what. what he took out of that hour.
Snippet, that one comment.
I know, I was like, wow, that wasn't the point that I was trying to get across. But what the point was, just in general, because one of the things he said is that I had said that I wasn't taking, or I was turning down listings that were overpriced and sellers that weren't motivated because it cost too much to hold them.
Right.
Yes, to a point.
Well, that's the reality, right? People think that when you're in real estate, you're not putting money out, that you make tons of money and you brunch all week.
Right.
Which is what I do, but that's not normal real estate.
Right. But these numbers is exactly what I was talking about. So the proof is in the numbers, right?
Yep.
Those withdrawals and expireds. It's because there has been so many sellers since the shift that say, I'm going to put my home on the market just to see what happens. And when I'm sitting there face to face with them and they're telling me, I just want to see what happens. And I know this number is not the number you're telling me my house could sell for, but let's list at this number. And if it works out, that's great for me. And if it doesn't, then I'll just go on. But they have no skin in the game. I have skin in the game.
Rip
you
it.
have skin in the game because we
Absolutely.
have to pay to market this listing that's not priced right. So for me, as a business model and running a business, I don't see that as a valuable thing to do. And I think that, and what I was trying to say to him is I think that that needs to be kind of a word of caution to go out to, especially inexperienced agents. There's agents out there that don't understand. They're like, well, I got a listing. You know, they don't know that that can cost them a lot of money.
Right. So I'm going to speak to that for a minute because that's the reality of it. In some markets, people can play real estate, right? It's like a gamble or playing, you know, like, let's see what we can get. This is not that market. This market is for serious buyers and sellers only. If you're having a life change, a divorce, a baby, you're getting a job transfer, your lease is up and you're sick of wasting money. If you're serious about real estate, then you're in this market. This is not the real estate market for playing games. And on the second note, being a professional and not taking listings that are overpriced and letting the client dictate what you should be doing as a professional is definitely a standard that you should set with all of your clients. And I'm glad that you do it and I do it, and it is what it is. Because if you went to a personal trainer or nutritionalist or anything else and they tell you do this, this, and that to achieve your goals, you do it. But for some reason in real estate, you say, listen, this is overpriced. We're not going to do this because you're going to sit days on market. Days on market are like kryptonite. People are like, ooh, what's wrong with the house? Or anything like that. We have to come into the market, especially in this very serious market where only serious transactions are happening at the right price for the right reason. And then they look at you and go, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. I think we're going to go with what I want to do. And you're just like, hello? Like, how many transactions did you deal with last year? I assure you mine was more.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's other factors that come into play here too, which again in real estate, we all know real estate, especially this year, we've seen the proof, right? Real estate will pivot quickly, rapidly. Every 90 days, we are in a brand new market.
Yeah.
It takes about 90 days to get there, but we are constantly shifting into another market every 90 days, whether it's positive, negative, deeper into something, whatever, but we are always shifting.
Yeah, it's definitely fluid. The market is constantly changing.
Absolutely. So over the last 5 to 7 years, though, if you took a listing that was overpriced, it would either still get an offer that was maybe more realistic to its price. Over the last 2 years, it would get an offer no matter what. It doesn't matter. You just hope the appraisal came in. Like that was, you know, and a lot of times they'd pay over that too. So it didn't matter. So pricing was not even like a skill that realtors had to get to know.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that. There's a lot of agents who came in, say, pandemic beginning-ish now, and they came in, they got in the Wild West, everybody had a chance to make money. It was like a gold rush, right? So real estate was easier for real estate agents, but they did not get or develop the skill sets that they need to actually help people close deals.
Yeah.
And so right now, then they're all freaking out.
I talked to agents that were literally at listing appointments with estimates. And they were like, yeah, the estimate said this. And the seller was like, that's great. And I was like, wow, okay, let's do it. But this is I know, I know. And I was
I'm
just like,
shaking
wow.
my head in disbelief. If you're not watching and you're listening,
don't do that. But that's the thing. We were in a market
that
where
should be the first question on a real estate test. Like, true or false, you should show up to a listing appointment with a Zestimate.
Right. No, don't do that. But we know that because we were here before the last 2 years. People that weren't here before the last 2 years didn't know that there was really anything wrong with that, because they would do it. They'd list the house like that and it'd work itself out. It always worked itself out. It didn't matter what number you put on that listing. It would work itself out. We are now in a market where that is not okay.
That is not okay.
And even the last 5 to 7 years, it wasn't as good or as great as the last 2 years, but even the last 5 to 7 years, you'd list a home at a certain price and it may be a little bit overpriced, but the market would kind of catch up to it eventually, take a little longer to sell, but the market would usually catch up to it, or we'd get a buyer that would take a chance on an offer just because there wasn't a lot out there, a lot of inventory. There was, over the last 2 years, there was a shortage, which was a different story. But even before, there wasn't just a lot where people would still take a chance, and you could still work it out. Taking an overpriced listing did not result in failure as often as it does and will right now.
Yeah. Right now's market is what I'm just referring to as the serious market.
It is serious.
I mean, if you need to sell or buy, or you want to sell or buy right now, you have to be very aware of what is going on in the market and what things are changing. And it's different nationally, right? So when I read articles from Realtor.com or National Association of Realtors, and I look at the numbers because they break them down into different sections of the country, and even the numbers that are happening in the West where we're located, our numbers to our city are different than the region, because we do have, if I'm being honest, a healthier real estate market.
Yes, so we are right now, as far as the national numbers are reporting, we're in the top 4 of experiencing pressure under this market, experiencing the pressure of slowdown and everything like that. Now, when I was talking earlier, this is more getting into the crystal ball part of it, right? About predictions. So I was listening to somebody the other day, very knowledgeable person, a very intelligent person, very valuable resource. So I do really value his opinion and what he says. But again, I understand that it's opinion. Everybody has.
Well, that's all this is.
Well, that's all this is.
It's all opinion. Our opinion of what's happening in our business that we work in every single day.
It's opinion and prediction.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like what we do or what we say today doesn't mean that it's going to happen. I mean, tomorrow something traumatic could happen in the world,
right.
And that it can change.
I don't know if I'm ready for another one of those incidents. Let's not do that. Let's just chalk it up to we're good.
Yeah. No more traumaticness.
No more pandemics. No more shutting down the city. Let's get rid of inflation. Can we just go back to normal? Because I'm all done with this.
But what's normal? When was it normal?
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
I mean, even 2018, I remember there was just something weird. I don't know, but again, anything can change.
It always changes, and you have to just be aware of what those changes are. Just like we took a week off for Thanksgiving, we come back and we look at the numbers and whoa, hey, what happened there?
Right. So back to those numbers before I get into the predictions and all that stuff, because I'm just I'm squirreling all over the place right here. But back to those numbers, price reductions.
Yep.
So those went from $1,900 a week to $829.
Yep.
Over the last week. That's half.
Yeah. And I think that because people are caught up, right? So what's happening now in our market is what people will be reporting news in 30 days, 60 days. Right. So I think that people are aware that you do have to come into the market and be very serious about what you're going to do. And so people are coming into the market at better prices. When I see new listings come up on the MLS, for the most part, they're priced where they should be. There's not a lot of people out there, throwing the dice going, let's see what we can get. Those days are over, and I think people know that.
And they understand.
Right.
Yeah, for the most part, they're realistic.
That is a contributing factor to the reduction. Also, when there's less stock and there's not getting showings because there's no buyers, I think people are like going, do we price out? Do we withdraw? And since there was such a decline in stock, I'm assuming that they're withdrawing instead of reducing. Because if you take those numbers and kind of balance it out, you're like, oh yeah, I see that discrepancy.
So just to give a comparison, earlier in the year, average withdrawals and expireds weekly, which we haven't reported the data every week, but I do know from looking at it that they were anywhere between 17 and 25.
Right.
Average withdrawals and expireds weekly.
Like not hundreds.
17, 2-digit, and 25. And right now we're looking this last 7 days. We're not talking 30 days, 7 days. 300 withdrawn. That's 300 sellers that took their property off the market.
Yep, they said we're done with this.
We're done. We're done. We don't want to sell anymore.
A lot of that does have to do with the time frame, though, because some people do pull off for holidays. They're going to be traveling. They want to decorate. They have family coming. So we do see that dip come the end of November, beginning of December, historically.
True.
Right. And so every year that's different depending upon 300 and something. That's more.
300 withdrawal and 354 expired. So those are listings that ran their term.
Yeah.
Usually they're 9 to 12 months. In most cases, every once in a while you see something different, but a lot of times we see those 9 to 12 month terms.
And 9 to 12 months ago, it was the Wild West, and they could have been moving. And now,
well, yeah, if that's the case, like why you see those listings too that you're like they listed at a good time, and they were wrong then. They were priced wrong then, and they have no chance right now. Like that's not. They've been chasing the market the whole time.
Yeah.
Oh. And to have those conversations with those people, yeah, that's a struggle. That is a struggle, and I unfortunately, you know, I've had those, you know, been in those conversations where it's like we started, and when it started to change, and then it's like, okay, we need to be on top of this. We need to get there, and they're like, no, I know what I'm doing. Yeah, I don't know if you know what you're doing, and they're, you know, and unfortunately, that is it's their home. Their equity, they call the shots.
Those are the facts.
Advise and lead.
Yep, advise and help facilitate that deal.
Absolutely.
It is their decision.
It is their decision.
It's frustrating when they don't take your, I guess, advice or your experience into consideration, and they just want what they want.
Yeah, or they chase it down. So you give a price recommendation at this price, and they say no, and then you find yourself 60, 90 days later, and they're like, okay, I'll do that price now. And you're like, that price was 90 days ago.
Right.
Like today's price is even low because we're chasing it down now. Like, and that is such a hard concept.
Right. And we've all had sellers that are like that. Say a house, they want 500, but the house is only 450. Now that we've corrected and we've dropped down, maybe that house is worth 400 and they still want like 430 or 450. And you're like, you're still above the market.
Yeah.
Didn't you see how this did not work out for you the first time?
Yeah, and I love it. They're like, but you told me this was the price. And I'm like, yes. 90 days ago.
Then that's like I have a friend who's a lender, and I was dropping off something the other day for my client, a thank you, because they had closed the deal or whatever, and there was a lady that was on the phone with her, and she was like, but you told me the interest rate was that, and she was like, that was 3 months ago when you applied. Like, that is definitely, do you not watch the news? Like, interest changes every day. Until you're locked in, it's going to not be exactly what I quoted you. That's why it's an estimate, you know? And it's the same thing with real estate. When you sit down and you take the initial, like I have a listing appointment this afternoon. When I sit down and talk to them about the numbers, if their house is on the market for 90 days, those numbers are going to be different because whatever shifts happen or changes in the market in the next 30, 60, 90 days are going to affect what we talk about today, period. It's just the life force of the market.
Right. And because of the shift and because there's a shift and a pivot that we're in right now.
Look at all of those Keller Williams words.
I know, I'm learning. No.
It's like, look at me.
Yeah, but it's true. We're in a shift and a pivot. That means that we have to change what we're doing.
Right.
I've always done a weekly update, for my sellers, for my listings and everything. So I've changed that to weekly report cards.
Yeah, that's cute. Tell me about that.
So it's a weekly report card of how your listing is performing, and that's everything. That's like your MLS performance, the amount of clicks, the amount of discards, the amount of views. I even pull in Zillow, even though I don't like them. I'm adding that in there of like how much.
Just giving them as much information as you can.
How many clicks are you getting there? How many clicks are you getting on alternative websites? How much, what are we getting? Because unfortunately, we're not getting a lot of showings. Those usually determine everything.
Yeah.
So I'm like, are we getting at least the window shoppers, or something out there?
Yeah,
are we getting anything? Because those numbers decreasing is like, okay, there's something better that they're looking at. It's not this.
Yeah, well, they're definitely an indicator of interest, right? How much attention your house is drawing.
Right, and you need to know that. We are in a digital age. A lot of that interest that we see is more right now more digital than physical. When they physically show up, that's when they're ready to buy. Yeah. But when they're digitally showing up, when they're showing up electronically in all these portals and all these places, they're shopping. They're at the mall. Yeah. They're at the mall. When they show up at your house, they're at the register, and they're just deciding if they're going to give you the transaction or not. Right. But we need to see if they're even in the mall. We need to see if they're even looking or shopping, because those numbers going down, it's just like no one's even willing to consider this.
Yeah.
So that's it's huge, but it's a report card. They need so I've changed it to a weekly report card of what's going on.
Well, that is a good way to shift and pivot, right? Because that is how we are going to help people. Right. Is to give them the information at this time, what can be done, and sort of, what it is. We're also going to be making predictions.
Let's start with our predictions. Our time's just going on. We've been talking about what's going on this year. So as I started into earlier, this very a person that I respect very highly says that over the next year, he seems to think that we're going to be in a deeper recession and things are going to get worse, and that Vegas historically has always been at the top of this bottom. At the top.
Well, we're always at the top of everything. We grow the fastest, we fall the fastest. We slow down the fastest, we speed up the fastest. We have a lot going on. This is a wild market in comparison than if you were, say, in Nebraska. They don't have those sort of growth that we do, right? And then also a lot of factors that were in other lows in our market have changed. The city has grown, our prices have grown, we've gotten professional sports teams, and things have changed a lot. So the market itself is a larger market than what it was. So I don't know that I'm going to see like Nebraska prices in Las Vegas. I can't picture it. I can't get there.
I agree with you 100%. So when he was saying this, he's from another city, another big city, and just saying, oh, well, Vegas is going to get hit very hard because you guys are always hit like you're always one of the worst.
Yeah, and we're seeing that right now. So what's up?
We're in the top 4. Economically, the city's better than it used to be.
Right.
Economically, there's more jobs, there's more big industries in the city, there's sports teams, there's everything.
We got a lot of tech, we got a lot of Silicon Valley people here, we got a lot of things that even in the last 3 to 5 years have changed our economic forecast.
Yeah, so he was saying if we don't get hit the hardest, it would break history. And I said, I think we're going to break history.
You're an optimist. It's going to be us.
I do. Because my perception here is, and again, perception, crystal ball. I think this is the worst of it. I think we're here right now. This is the worst of it. It may stay this way for a few months. It's not great. It's not good right now. It may stay this way for a few months, but I don't think that we're going to get deeper or worse as far as the housing part of this goes than where we're at right now.
Yeah, so I think a few episodes ago I had said that I don't see our inventory rising up into a buyer's market. Like I don't see 12, 15, 18,000 homes on the market.
Right.
Even when we go in spring, I'm expecting an uptick because that's historical. And even now I'm seeing more buyers that are looking to come on the market. I held a bunch of buyer consults over the past couple weeks while we were off before the holiday. And, you know, people are still coming out of the woodworks and they want to see where they're at. And some of them have to prepare or save money or work on credit. Some of them are ready now. Some of them didn't do taxes yet. There's a bunch of different factors, but they're all putting themselves in position because they want to buy when the market crashes. And I don't know that we're gonna see that. We've corrected. There's still business happening in the correction. It's serious business. Like if you want to buy or sell, if you have a life-changing event, all the things I mentioned earlier, then those are things that we're working on to help you get in there. And because I am seeing some buyers like really interested in making forward motion to get to the point where they can buy, I think spring's going to be pretty good, at least for me.
We're anticipating rates will come down in spring, and I mean it's just a fact. It's a fact. I'm going to say this is a fact. Rates come down, activity goes up.
Right.
That's not going to not happen. How could that not happen?
Right.
It's never
well, because
not
right now, everybody that I'm talking to, my clients and just friends and family and people, everybody's like, oh yeah, you know, when money's more easier to buy, then I'm going to go get that house. When those rates come down, I'm going to go do this and I'm going to go do that.
But everybody will.
Right. But then you're going to have the competition. But I don't see if we're not growing, because I believe it was Realtor.com. They projected that the West region where we're at for appreciation was only going to be between 6 and 8%.
Still appreciation.
Well, exactly. For 2023, that's what their article this week said. That there was going to be 6 to 8% or whatever. And we're not in negative equity. We are still appreciating. Are we appreciating at 23%? Nah,
we weren't ever supposed to.
No, we were never supposed to. That wasn't real appreciation. That was people paying over appraised value. It was a fake market, what have you. But if we stay at even a 4 to 6% appreciation growth, that's very normal. That's very healthy. There's nothing wrong with that. And I don't think that there's going to be a lot of people on the market, especially coming onto the market as sellers, where they're going to just be like, oh, I just want to sell my house because I want to make money. No, you're not getting that 23% appreciation to get the highest dollar. So these buyers that are waiting until spring or when the rates come down or whatever, they're going to probably have a little bit of that shortage in supply. They're not going to have this plethora of 7,000 homes or 6,000 homes that we have right now.
Or not being able to get all their closing costs paid, or
well, factors will definitely be different.
Yeah, things are going to change as that happens, and that's what I'm seeing too. So the fact of it happening more, it's like when I hear this doom and gloom, and I get it, they're I'm taking it like, is that a warning? But the numbers and the things that I'm seeing out here they're not saying that. I think that if that was the case, we would be seeing a lot more inventory on the market, a lot more like panic, people saying like, I have to keep this home for sale, I have to do whatever. And people are instead pulling back their houses saying, if I'm not selling it, if I can't sell at that price, I'm not selling. So there's no need to sell.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you're not serious, then this isn't the real estate market for you. Now, on the flip side, I think there needs to be more buyers serious about it, because I think that nobody's taking into consideration that affordability is going to be an issue as well as we go forward, especially with like interest rates, and if we do have appreciation of prices. If that house is appreciating year after year 4-6%, that's still going up, and you are still buying out of the market.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, don't wait, because affordable. And then I read another article, and I can't remember. I was going to look it up today, and I messed it up. Dang it. I'm not good with mornings, people. Like, this show should be done in the afternoon. So anyway, I was going to look it up. I think I read that there was, in 18%. It was 18% of the market was investors.
Yeah.
And those investors that they were looking at, something like 13% of those investors were long-term holds. So that's going to be a lot of, let's say, LLCs and corporations and stuff owning those properties for renters. And as we appreciate, and you're going to be out of the market because it's going to be unaffordable, they've already got their mortgage payment and their renter, and that house is already making them money in appreciation, all the things you want your real estate to do for you. And who knows, 2 to 3 years from now, you may not even be able to buy.
Rentals are still flying off the shelves very quickly. They're going into contract, getting applications very quickly. They're still at very high prices.
Okay,
and
so
that's
I
an
have a
indicator.
horror story when it comes to a rental.
Okay.
Okay, so a friend of a friend has a family member who we had talked about them purchasing or whatever, and they freaked out, didn't pull the trigger, didn't go to get the house or whatever. They are just moving into a rental, and I'm talking like a little 980 square foot 2-bedroom bungalow in very bad condition because the hot water heater doesn't work. The windows, 2 of them are cracked, and there's black mold under the kitchen sink, right? The landlord's not taking care of any of those issues, so they're coming in and having to take care of all of those issues on their own, and the landlord is still getting $1,900 a month.
Jeez.
$1,900 a month.
Yeah.
Like with a buy down rate, if you were doing like a $300,000 townhome, which is just the same size, basically a little apartment, 900 to 1,100 square feet or something, you're still in the $2,000 a month range if you have decent credit and you're doing like a conventional 5% down.
Yeah.
That's way better than a crappy rental that's not doing anything for you.
Absolutely.
And they took this rental and I'm shaking my head. I'm like, ooh, I can't help it if people make bad decisions.
And that's it. And that's it. I mean, it still, there's the security of home ownership is never going to go away.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot. We will be coming back next week and talking some more. So
yeah, I think for a lot of December, we're going to be making predictions and what we expect 23 to look like and what those market, because next week we'll officially have all of the numbers released from LVR.
Absolutely. So we'll talk about those.
Yep, and we'll talk about the closings and all of that.
And then the end of the year this year, we'll do our what was it called last year? The wake.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I can't remember what we called it. We're going to say goodbye to a bunch of things from 2022.
Right. We're putting them to rest.
We will be putting some things to
like
rest.
That wild roller coaster ride.
Annual show, yeah. So we'll have to get Mia back. So Mia, we're calling you.
So we can giggle and say like.
Yeah. So our viewers will love that.
Well, most of them. I know one guy who won't.
So, Tiana, how do people get a hold of you if they need to talk about real estate, get things started?
If you're interested in what's happening in the Valley and you want to get into the market and see if this is something that's really for you, then give me a call, 702-379-9948. And Trish, if they'd like to talk to you?
702-308-2878. Let's talk and get things going. Tune in next week, and we'll see you guys. Thanks for tuning in here on Vegas Realty Check.
All right, you guys have a good week. Bye.
Have a good week.